There you go.
We're off the mark, are we?
Yep.
Nice one. Awesome, buddy. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening,
Yeah.
depending on whenever you're watching it back. Here we are again. What are we on? Week 6? Week 6 of our
It
level
is
1.
week 6, but I've named it
yeah,
session 5. I need to just change that quickly.
cool. Okay, guys. So welcome back. What we're going to be doing this morning, sort of building on what we briefly looked at last week, we're going to be looking at sort of presentation skills, and sort of situations and different circumstances where you might need to use a presentation. You might be asked to do a presentation. You might just decide it's the best way to get across whatever information you're trying to sort of share with others. And there's obviously a lot of different stuff sort of available depending on the context of different ways that we would do these presentations. And of course, we're going to build to eventually you guys are going to go away, do a little bit of your own research as well on something that's really sort of close to your heart, you know, something that you're really passionate about, anything to do with health and fitness. You guys are going to go away, do a little presentation on whatever it's going to be, you know. That could be meal prep, that could be sort of maybe living with or sort of effects of an illness or a disability. I don't know, maybe it's that you know somebody who it's affected quite a lot. Anything like that, you know, health and fitness. It could be different sports, it could be different activities that we can do. It could even be activities we can do during lockdown, you know, which has been probably on a lot of our minds for the thick end of the last year now.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully we'll start pulling together some ideas for that anyway, and what we're going to be doing sort of going forward, where you guys are going to sort of, like I say, take something that really interesting to yourselves and deliver sort of a presentation back. Luckily, you'll be pleased to know that's just going to be to me. We're going to do that in a one-to-one Zoom call, you know, so we're not jumping on. You're not going to be talking or delivering this presentation in front of loads of people. It'll just be ourselves, just me and you. And I'm interested to see what you come up with, you know, because we've had learners in the past that'll go away and they'll do a presentation on something that I've never really heard about, you know, like I say, be it a condition or even just a sport that I've not really sort of looked into or ever really followed, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, we've got a lot coming up over the next few weeks in terms of pulling that together and getting those presentations done. Just to start us off this morning, then, just to get us thinking, we've got a little word search to do on the next slide, just to get them brains working, because like I say, bright and early. So on the right hand side, we've got a list. It's pretty much a list of techniques, I guess we could say. Techniques, sort of devices that we can use in our presentations and in our communication as well, I guess, as much as anything. That's kind of what a presentation is, isn't it? Really, you're just trying to communicate in the most effective and the most appropriate form for what's being asked, you know. So yeah, this is all stuff that you could use at sort of different times. Now, I wouldn't necessarily think that, I don't think I've ever given a presentation where I've needed to necessarily use all of these so strictly, you know, and sort of like make a checklist, like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. But of course, depending on the style of presentation you're given, you know, you might want to use different combinations of these. And again, we might think of something today that isn't on the list at all. You know, but yeah, I know you'll have done presentations in your time, Hatham, as well. You know, and it's I find stuff like, certainly practice really helps, you know, sort of repetition, get whatever it is that you're going to say sort of in your head. Example I always use is when I had to give I was asked to be best man at my sister's wedding.
Nice.
And do you know what?
Just no pressure.
Oh, mate, the sheer panic. And do you know what? I don't know whether it would be worse, and you guys might have even a different opinion on this. Is it worse getting up and speaking in front of a room full of people that you know, or a room full of people that are total strangers?
Depends how long I've been at the bar.
Yes, that is a massive factor as well. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have maybe maximum 2 bevies, and then I'm gonna cut myself off there until this speech is delivered. Otherwise, you're waking up the next morning and watching videos back and not even remembering doing it. Bevies,
Never watch it back.
No,
never watch it back. That's your first mistake.
I definitely found it was more. I was more anxious about doing it, knowing that I knew both sides of the family. You know, obviously bride and groom as well, because I was really close with him. So I found that to be quite worse. Having been working in a job for however many years, where I'm quite regularly talking to a room full of people that I don't really know, especially at first.
Yeah.
But of course, that's a different setting altogether in sort of like a gym environment, in a class environment, because people have turned up specifically to listen to me, you know, whereas in a sort of like a wedding speech or a best man speech, people aren't really there to listen to me. I mean, it's just part of the day. So even then, the way that I practiced for that, the way I sort of structured that and put that together, it was totally different. You know, we're thinking about pacing. How long are we talking for? Do we need to? Is it a few minutes? Up, short, keep it sweet, like a speech, and then move on. Everybody just wants their dinner. Everybody wants to crack on, have a bit dance. Of course, when you're planning a fitness class or something like that, you're thinking, right, that's 40 minutes that I need structure, I need control, I need to be able to get the information across to everybody that needs to hear it. You know, how many people need to hear what it is that you're sort of talking about as well. So it, like I say, these are all different stuff that we're going to use based on the what would you say, sort of the circumstances of the presentation, you know, sort of the context. That's the word I was looking for, buddy. Okay, cool, guys. So if we're just going to take sort of 10-15 minutes, we'll just look through, or you guys have a look through, see which ones of those you can pull out. So some of them obviously run forwards, some of them run backwards. I don't think, in fact, I'm going to double check before I commit to that. Yeah, there's no diagonals. There's no diagonals, and I think there's only one or two that sort of run vertical as well. So have a look in there, see what we can pull out. Just while we have a little bit natter, and like I say, if you want to dive in the chat as well, and just have a look at some of these tools that we've got at our disposal. So first of all, sort of like almost like a meet and greet. It's not really something I've ever used, you know, in the context that I've been given presentations. Although I guess kind of after a class, I would hang around and have a bit crack with everybody, you know, have a bit talk about the class, have a little bit of feedback, that sort of thing. I guess you could even do a meet and greet before your presentation to just sort of
probably
get a feeling for, you know, who's there, who's going to be listening. You know, can you pick up a couple of little bits of information from them that you could use to make the presentation a little bit more personal? You know, can you help them relate to what it is that you're saying, just by speaking to a few people that might actually be listening to what it is that you're going to say, you know? So again, it depends how you feel, I guess. Do you feel better in a room full of people that you're sort of a little bit more familiar with? Does that break the ice for you a little bit? Or would you rather get up there in front of just people that you don't really know, do what you've got to do, and sort of, almost for lack of a better term, it's get it over with, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, as somebody who always hated being called to the front of class to speak in school, that sort of thing. Truth be told, that was the main reason I didn't get into teaching classes sooner. I was adamant I was only doing one-to-one PT when I started, to be honest. I was like, I work best on a one-to-one scale. Classes look quite hectic. Obviously, I like to get information across as clearly as I can. I wasn't sure if I could do that in a class setting. So I was one-on-one PT, like strictly. And then I met Mel, actually, funnily enough. And she'd said, do you know what? I'm running some classes up at Bede, by all means, like Bede College. By all means, come and watch, sort of shadow, join in on a couple if you want, meet some of the members. Again, kind of like almost like a meet and greet sort of scenario as well. And then sort of seeing how it was ran, see how Mel did it, see how her sort of almost like members, I guess, were used to the class being run. Because, of course, you want to come in and make it a little bit sort of unique to yourself, but not so different that they don't really recognise it as one of Mel's classes as well, you know. So I actually got the chance to, I guess, do a little bit of a meet and greet with that, and sort of realising from there, you know, you've done it, then you realise you can do it, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and sort of ran with it from there. I thought if somebody else trusts me to do the job well, I've got to have a little bit of trust in myself, and sort of, I did them classes for I think 3 years. 3 years, before we've both sort of moved into the teaching side of things a little bit more.
But
You
knew what you were talking about, right? Like that's one of the main things. Like there's two types of like public speaking really, and one's where you prepped and you know exactly what you're talking about, and the other one's where you just sort of wing it and you'll some things you can't just wing. Like a lot of the time, like if it's a meeting or whatever, like about I don't know, like a networking meeting or whatever, and you've got a guest spot, like, or you've been asked to do a presentation, like I would take very minimal information into that, and I would sort of I'd have the key points and I'd live on top of them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But if it was like a class where it's got, I'm just going to put some music on and turn it down. It's too loud. If I was gonna do a class where I had like specific information that I had to relay, obviously I'd have to have that information. Like today, like we've got a presentation to work from. But if it was just like a meet and greet, like a networking event or whatever, I'd have the basics, of what I do and what Media Savvy does. But I wouldn't be like just sit and reading off a list because it wouldn't make any sense. Like it's not very appealing to just sit and go through bullet points of like what you do, sort of thing. So I think knowing what you're talking about is good, and knowing when you need to rely on like your information and when you can just sort of ad lib what you already know.
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, but it comes down to context, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is it going to be more of sort of like a Q&A session? Are you going to just get some rough points across, and then like are you just going to get some points across and then let the audience sort of ask a couple of questions? Is it going to be more backwards and forwards? Is it going to be more interactive with your audience? Or is it just a case of I need to relay this information in pretty much exactly this style? So we're gonna go with that. Obviously, you can use visual aids and stuff like that as well. Like Hatham says, we're using a presentation this morning. I wouldn't just jump on and this morning and be like, right, okay, presentation skills. Let's just sort of bounce some ideas around. It is. Sometimes you need a little bit more structure, and like Hatham says, sometimes you can get away with it being a little bit more sort of a little bit more sort of free rein, isn't it?
Yeah, especially if if you're doing like a question and answer sort of session as well. Like if it's like more of a workshop, you might have a presentation that you go through, but then that you take questions from people and that the subject evolves, like it changes. You're not necessarily talking about the same thing that's on the slide anymore.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And if you deliver that presentation in like separate places, several sort of instances, the conversation is going to go a different way every single time. So definitely. that sort of backwards and forwards Q&A is going to you're almost going to need to understand the subject so much better, aren't you? Because you could have so many questions thrown at you. You need to know, but you need to pretty much have as many of your bases covered as possible. That's not to say that if you don't know an answer, there's any harm in saying, look, do you know what? I don't know that at the minute. I'll go away and I'll research that answer and I'll get back to you or something like that. And there's absolutely no harm in saying, do you know what? I'm not really sure on that information at the minute. Now, the style of presentation that we're going to be doing on this course is going to be more of just like a poster, So it's not going to be so interactive, As you're giving the presentation, it's going to be like I say between you and myself. But then if we were to say put that up on a classroom wall or something like that, does the presentation speak for itself by itself as well? Is the information all on there? Or is there a lot that you would need to add? And of course, you're not going to be there every time somebody sees your poster, This presentation that we do this morning hopefully makes a little bit more sense when me and Hatham are giving it a little bit more context, padding it out a little bit more. Otherwise, it's kind of just a series of slides, isn't it?
Yeah.
As opposed to if we knew that me and Hatham weren't going to be here talking as well and the slides had to do the job themselves, the whole presentation would look entirely different. There'd be a lot more information on there. So again, just have a little bit of a think about how you want your presentation to come across as you're delivering it, and as well sort of when it sort of stands by itself. Okay, cool. So yeah, there's a couple on there that we've already mentioned. We've mentioned sort of even just taking a little bit of time before you give an answer. We've sort of talked in the past about using something like it could be planned pauses, where you maybe planning in certain breaks, certain paragraphs, So you've got like the sort of natural flow of the presentation down, but it also gives you a chance to think, sort of collect your thoughts again. You know, even sometimes having a bottle of water. You know, if you ever watch like comedians or performers on stage, stuff like that, more often than not, they've got a bottle of water or a drink of water with them. Of course, they might need that just to rehydrate while they're under the spotlights, and they maybe's got a bit of a sweat on. Like Lee Evans, if you've ever seen Lee Evans, he just sweats from the second he steps on stage, doesn't he? But it also works well for them just to have a chance, get your breath, recompose yourself. Where am I at, sort of in the presentation? What's coming up next, sort of thing. And it again, there would never be any harm in just standing there, taking a deep breath, and just taking a second. Yeah. But of course, if you feel more comfortable using a bottle of water to mask that a little bit, or something like that, you know, if it saves you sort of fidgeting with your clicker pen, or you know that sort of thing, shuffling your feet.
It's good to take a question sometimes. That gives you a chance to have a little break. If you're losing your train of thought, or you're like getting tripping over your words and stuff, you get someone to interject a mile there, explaining what they're talking about. You just
definitely. It's like a get out of jail free card, isn't it? Yeah, definitely. Same again, we've sort of mentioned how interactive you might want your presentation to be. Exercises, I guess, kind of like this word search. Exercises can help the audience get involved a little bit more, help them feel sort of engaged, and of course get them thinking a little bit more, because I know there's nothing worse than just sitting there for like 2 hours getting talked at, you know, depending on how long the presentation's going to be. I remember when I passed my personal training course, part of the qualification that I paid for was like a 2-day business course down in London to help you sort of with being self-employed, all the finance side of things, mate. And we went in this company, this building down in London. We went down into like a glorified basement, and it was a projector and it was slides, and we were there for 1 full day knowing that we were going back there again the next day and doing exactly the thing. And it was just soul destroying, truth be told. Like it really was. And there was no sense of like we had chance to sort of be involved. It was just sitting and listening, you know. And when they're long days, you know, we've done training courses, buddy, you know what it's like. If you ever get on a training course and it is just like info, and you've just got to sit there like a sponge and take it all in, just purely by listening. You know, people learn differently. You know, I'm more of a like see it and then try and do it myself. Usually learn the hard way kind of guy. You know, whereas some people prefer reading. You know, listening, watching, sort of more hands on. We all learn differently. You know, and same again. Try and think about that. And of course, depending on the nature of your presentation, who needs to understand what it is that the presentation's trying to get across? Again, context is massive. You know, are you given a pitch for a business or an idea or something like that? You know, of course, the people that you're talking to, it's really important that they understand what it is that you're getting across. There might be other sort of circumstances where, and you might have a little bit more chance for just them to ask some questions, and you can maybe relay information back to them that way. Then we've got sort of more the visual side of your presentation overall. You know, we're talking headings, you know, structure, paragraphs, visual aids, diagrams, pictures, all of that sort of thing. You know, what makes it interesting to watch, and sort of listen to the presentation, look at the presentation. And at the same time, some of them can be really helpful for getting the information across as well.
Yeah,
you know,
easy hit if you need a break or you're stumbling, is to play your clip.
Oh yeah,
might be an audio clip, might be a video clip, whatever it is. Just, you know, that can be 2 to 5 minutes or whatever it is of just like you don't have to speak anymore.
Yeah, it just buys you a little breather, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely. And of course, sometimes the right visual aids can actually enhance the presentation overall. You know, if you're using diagrams, charts, that sort of thing to back up points that you're trying to make, you know, I definitely relate to stuff a lot more if I see it in sort of a visual form. You know, like I say, like a pie chart or something like this, or this many percentage is like type 1 diabetes compared to type 2 diabetes. That makes a lot more sense, rather than saying like even just something like 1 in 10 people have type 1 diabetes or something like that. That's true, that's factual, but at the same time, if I give them a diagram, or if there's a diagram there, it helps drive it home, and it helps them maybe remember that as they go away at the end of the day as well.
Yeah.
So again, your presentation, how long do people need to be retaining the information afterwards? Does it need to stick with them? Do they need to go away? Do you need them to spread the word amongst friends and to sort of pass the message on? Or do you just need them to buy in sort of there and then and say yes to the idea, or approve something, Again, that's gonna change the way that your presentation's probably gonna look. A massive two on that list that I used and I've always used really is observing others and watching how other people do it, be it public speakers, again, comedians, even musicians on stage, like anything like that. And of course, like your body language as well. Your body language in the way that you're sort of holding yourself. Do you look really nervous? I know it's hard, isn't it, to not be nervous when you are nervous. But I can't remember who it was now, but I read something. It was a famous public speaker. I can't remember which one it was, but it was him saying that pretty much everybody who gets on stage gets that rush of adrenaline. They just get better at using it and sort of using it to, again, enhance the performance rather than hinder it.
Yeah.
They'll use that nervous energy. Some people even have like like an alter ego, like a stage, stage.
I mean,
sort of persona,
like a performance sort of.
Yeah, definitely. If we're given a performance, yeah. Of course, that isn't anything you guys are going to have to worry about. You're just going to be coming in and speaking to me about, again, something that is just really sort of hopefully close to home for you, So again, we don't even really need to worry about that too much. But again, just looking at how other people do public speaking and stuff like that, it always helped, and it was definitely something that I did before I delivered that wedding speech anyway, Because for me, I just couldn't switch off, mate. I just couldn't switch off for the day. Like, my sister's wedding began after my speech was done, pretty much, because I'm like, right, you know what? I can enjoy the day now. And again, do you know what, mate? I was glad I did it as well, because I was sort of convinced that, as I'm sure everybody is, that they're going to get up there and make a bit of a fool of yourself, and something's going to go wrong, and you're never going to hear the end of it. But at the end of the day, it's no bigger deal to anybody else than it is to you, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was
probably half the people don't remember it.
100%, mate. 100%. Yeah. I found it actually the other day, given that it was a few years ago. I came across it when I was sorting the house out, but I couldn't tell you what I even got up there and talked about.
Words.
Yeah, it's not what people think about. It's not what people think about when they're thinking about the day. But again,
I wouldn't have wrote a speech like
I did it. Would you have winged it?
I would have just thought of like 2 or 3 things to say, kept them up in the old noodle, and just done it. And be like, it is what it is. You get what you get. Like,
just got up there and done it, yeah.
Because I would stress about it too much. So that's a context where I know I don't need information. Like, I don't need facts. It's all just feeling. So just go with that. Like, if you're not presenting information and you don't need it to be right, so you're not like misleading people or whatever, just go with it, man.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
That's so funny that we had the same sort of apprehension about that scenario, but we dealt with it 2 totally different ways. I've rehearsed it so I knew it word for word.
Whereas that's the two states of human like consciousness. It's either over prepare or under prepare.
Yeah.
But like I say, in certain scenarios, it's fine because you can get away with it. But if you're under prepared for today, for example, like this morning, you'd be knackered because you'd be like, the quality of the session would be terrible. But in a social context, it's hard to like rehearse stuff. I've always found like it's not about. Nobody wants, if you like having a conversation, even if it's just a conversation with someone. Like, I'm the same with job interviews. Like, I practice the techniques to know, like, okay, this is, if they ask me this type of question, that's what I might say. but I don't
Yeah.
memorize anything because then you go in and you sound like a robot. Like it's not good.
Yeah, a
You
little
sound
bit.
like you're
Yeah.
reading from a script, and that's not what they're after.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to try
Definitely.
and be a normal human being, which is very difficult when the pressure's on.
Oh, definitely. Like you saying that in that job interview sort of scenario, they're trying to. It's exactly bang on, mate. You know, they're trying to gauge your personality as much as anything. You know, gauge your fit for the workplace, the workforce that they've already got.
And if
So
you
yeah,
go in there and just basically read your CV off verbatim, they're not
yeah.
going to be
Read the
very
CV
impressed.
that
They're going to
they've
be like,
already read. Yeah, they read your CV. They know the facts. They know the black and white qualifications that you've got, your experiences that you've got. That's your chance to maybe get yourself across as an individual a little bit more, isn't it?
mind you, sometimes I've gone in and just talked at them for like half an hour, and I've been like, hang on, I don't know if that was any better.
well, yeah.
Like, oh, I haven't told them that, and then what about that? And then it just for like 20 minutes, and then I'm like, probably talked a little bit too much here.
Can almost stress over it too much as well, can't you?
But no, that adrenaline thing definitely feel that at time.
It never goes away. I mean, what I've been doing what live streams for at least 6 months now. But there's still a case of before you go live, it's like, oh, really, are we going live? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I'm over it now.
yeah, you're just done with it. Yeah, you just done with it.
There's been too many.
Yeah.
It's upwards of like must be approaching 200 that I've done now, and I'm just like,
you gotta be.
It's having a conversation really now.
Yeah, pretty much. Speaking of conversations, I'm just I've had to come off the chat to load it up again.
Okay,
It's not,
so
not loading messages up yet.
Saying that she panics for presentations a little bit. She reckons it's worse with people you know. She can't imagine without feeling sick, which is nice. I haven't tried that trick before, and I don't think I will now, based on that advice.
It's not where I'm going to start. Yeah, definitely not. That would have been a bit grim at a family wedding.
Yeah, definitely. It's on the borderline, that one. Like, visual and vocal is easier for her as well. I think, I always, if it's a choice between reading or watching something, it's always the watching something. And I don't know if that's just because I'm an idiot, but I feel like when I read something, I have to read it like 6 or 7 times to understand it.
Yeah, I mean, how often now is it like, oh, I need to know this, rather than finding it in text form? How often do you just find a YouTube video? Just find a YouTube video.
It's not necessarily the video, even a lot of the time. Sometimes the audio helps a bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
It depends on the format of the writing, I suppose, because if someone puts something in very clear, like bullet points, for example, I would argue that it's probably better to have those because you can just refer to them at any time.
Yeah.
But if it came between, like, for example, reading a book and trying to extract meaning from like an old-fashioned, I'm talking like an old-fashioned textbook, or listening to someone say it, and I maybe have like a video on the screen explaining it, that's far better for me than it is like some dusty old textbook where it's the line spacing in the textbooks that always gets us.
Just throw you off, mate.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, I literally, like, I'm thinking about a uni, I'd have to read like a chapter in a book like 3 times before I'd understand the point that
would like sink in.
And I was just like, this is so much like work just to understand basic English. Like,
yeah, definitely. And again, that's probably what a lot of text all sort of chucked together. And like,
I mean, I don't have great eyesight, to be fair, so that might be it as well. Like, I get eye strain quite easily. So
yeah.
Sometimes I look at a page and it literally, like, it's like the page is sort of melting away because my eyes are just too tired.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And that's just my eyesight in general. So anyone who's got any kind of like visual impairment or, dyslexia or whatever, will struggle even more.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to bear that in mind as well. That you've got people who, especially when you're doing a presentation, like especially when you're teaching, if you're teaching any subject, you've got to bear in mind that some people, this information won't be accessible to them.
Yeah,
and that's fine because you can adapt it as well. You might create something, be it a poster, for example, and then someone's like, "Oh well, what have you thought about that?" And then you can always, if it's for a purpose, you revisit it and say, "Okay, yeah, we'll change it." Make it easier for people to read. Maybe the text was too small and people couldn't make it out. So the next time you do one, you know that you've got to make the text readable. You learn little things. You get there.
Yeah, definitely, buddy. Definitely, good point. Right, guys, I reckon that'll about do us for the word search. Then I see Haytham's already storming ahead, and we've got the answers up there. Nice one. You're going to be.
Oh, there was an answer slide, man.
I was going to say you're going to be gutted when I tell you there's an answer slide.
Right.
But at least the guys have seen you mark off where they are as well. Anyway, it saves us going through and pulling out where they all are. Yeah. If you do want to take a few more minutes to just double check you've got all of them, or before before you do move on, if you want to pause it there and finish up, and just get caught up, by all means do. Yeah, cool. Right, guys. So we'll spin on then, and we'll start to just break it down from I guess like we're sort of saying the context, the reason for the presentation. You know, so what reasons do we have for giving a presentation? You know, because of course, like we say, we need to know that before we can think about the style of the presentation. What do we need to put in? How are we going to deliver it? You know, are you giving a lecture? You know, sort of almost kind of similar to what this is, or if you're at a university or something like that. Are you delivering just a lot of information about a particular subject, topic, field, to a room full of people, pretty much, or to X amount of people? Then we've got training. You know, are you going in and a training presentation might be, again, a little bit more hands-on. You need to know that the people that are listening have taken away the information. If you've ever been for like first aid training or something like that, you know, you're not just going to sit and listen to the information and make notes. You're going to be down. You're going to be doing chest compressions on a dummy. You're going to be doing like mouth to mouth, that sort of thing.
Slapping someone's back to stop them from choking and all the rest of it.
Yeah, all of that, you know. Do you need to have, just like we were saying a minute ago, that sort of exercises, activities, just to make the presentation a bit more interactive, to make sure that not only is the information sinking in, but it's reassurance for you as well that the learners have, or the sort of audience has taken away what you know that they need to. You know, if you are training and you need to write certificates out at the end and say, yes, this person's sort of qualified to be the only first aider on site at the minute, you need to know that that person has retained the information, of course. So just chucking a load of information and saying like, right, see you later, see you in 6 months for your next course.
Yeah.
It doesn't tick all the boxes. It doesn't really do what you need it to. Job interview is another scenario where you might find yourself needing to give a presentation. I've never done a job interview or had a job interview where I've strictly had to go in and say like, these are my slides, this is what I've put together for you, like this sort of thing. I've never had to do that. I know some jobs do require that. It might be sort of like a pitch for an idea, or it might even be just pitching ideas that you can bring to the company if you are gonna go and work there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might even be something like just your understanding of the field that the company works in, or something like that. You know, why you might be asked to. A job interview, like we were sort of saying a second ago, I think of as more like a chance to do a little bit more of a presentation for yourself, not necessarily through slides and through information and stuff like that, but it's your body language. You know, it's your body language. Maybe it's your choice of language that you're using as well.
I think PowerPoint like sort of ruined the word presentation because that's what everyone assumes it's going to be, but it's not necessarily that. You know what I mean? Like, so even if you watch like, I don't know, Apple and Google and, you know, Samsung, every year they do a presentation and it's just them on a stage. It's the CEO on a stage with a video playing behind them, and then they come out and talk for like half an hour about what they're going to do that year. That's a presentation. There's no PowerPoint. They're not showing you some janky PowerPoint with loads of animations on it. Like, it's just they're getting up there and talking. And it's the same in a job interview. Like, you're presenting your skills and what you can do.
Yeah, definitely. Just like you say, buddy, at like E3 or something like that, where we have these games conference. That is all these software companies come out and do, isn't it? You know,
I need to go get the door quickly.
No worries,
Why do you talk about that?
No worries, mate. Yeah, I'll sit and talk about games all day. Yeah. Where's Gary at when we need him? Oh, he's in the office today, isn't he? Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. A presentation isn't always necessarily going to be a PowerPoint or like a look at this while I talk about whatever, you know, and sort of pad it out a little bit. Sometimes you are just going into yourself. It might be a couple of, like Haytham mentioned, it might be just a couple of bullet points that you've memorized and you're going to expand on. You might know what you're going to go in and say sort of word for word. Again, it depends on you. It depends how you want to prepare and what's going to make you feel the most prepared going in. Because, of course, the more prepared you can feel, again, not to say that those nerves aren't going to be there, but the more prepared you feel, the less those nerves are going to be. If you're going in not feeling very prepped, you know, are you going to be fidgety? Are you going to be nervous? Are you going to be shy to make like sort of eye contact? And really sort of talk with confidence and get yourself across why you might be the best person for the job. So again, a presentation can be more than just sort of like Haytham says, when you're thinking about PowerPoint and stuff like that. There's a lot more different types of presentations that we can do. The posters that you guys are going to do is just going to be another form, and we're going to actually get a look at those in a minute and the different types of presentations we might do. Health and safety, again, is kind of like a little bit of a mix of sort of like training, because you need to know that people's retain the information. Is there an assessment at the end of that? You know, it's again, how are you assessing that the information is stuck with the audience? How important is it that the information sticks with the audience beyond the end of the presentation? So it's kind of like that lecture format mixed in with training as well. And then, of course, like an award ceremony. I mean, the it's not necessarily an award ceremony, but it's just made me think there. The Shine event that we do every year when we can.
Yeah.
You know, that is a presentation essentially, isn't it? You know, it's like, look, this is what we've done. This is what's been going on. This is what we'd like to move on and sort of do as well. And that's exactly the same sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of speech and a rap from Mel one year, I think. Yes. A rap from Mel, yeah. As always, yeah.
Yet to be topped.
That's it. She set the bar high now. She set the bar. So yeah, award ceremonies as well could be like a sort of a presentation. You know, if you've been through a form of education and you've gone and picked up a certificate, that sort of thing. You know, it's all presentations, and again, it's not necessarily to get a load of information across about, oh, this is the qualification that they've achieved, this is what they can go and do with it. Like, no, it's a little bit more, it's a load more informal, really, isn't it? You know, it's a celebration at the end of the day. So again, the context is going to be quite important to what it is that you're trying to say, and what you want people to take away.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So if we can go next slide, then we've got a little look at some different types of presentation and when we might want to use each one. So we've got visual presentations, which is probably the most it's probably the most straightforward one, or the most common one that you would think of. You know, if not PowerPoint itself. You know, just visual presentations. The old was it the old point and stick and the laser and the laser pointer.
Yeah.
You know, coming in there to mark out where you're at on the presentation and stuff like that. Again, posters and PowerPoints probably the two most sort of common ones of these that you're going to come across. Best used for large groups. You know, you're getting a lot of information across. The information might not be up for debate. There might not be a two-way sort of street necessarily. There might not be a Q&A. You might just be trying to get that information to as many people as possible, and like I say, trying to make it appealing and relevant to everybody and making it sort of stick. Do you have any sort of preference, buddy, to what type of presentation you feel more comfortable delivering? Or not?
Not really. I mean, I try not to rely too much on like slides. Like I say, I put the PowerPoint. It'll be like bullet point information or Google Slides or whatever. I tend to use Google Slides because it's free. But it'll be like the the basics, and then within the notes, I'll have like all the text, so it's not overdoing it on the side. Like, there's not too much to read basically on the screen. And then I tend to send out the slides so people can read the, like, if they want to, there's more information in the notes that go along with each slide, which it's like, and I include like the links and stuff to wherever I've gathered or where there's more information.
Yeah, like sort of
Um,
supplementary
so
information sort of thing. Yeah,
it's largely visual. Like it'll be bullet points, images, videos, that sort of thing.
yeah, yeah,
Try and keep it as and make it interactive as possible as well.
yeah,
Like build in plenty of pauses to do something or show them something and take questions and answers and that kind of thing. Obviously,
yeah,
it's a bit difficult when you're doing stuff online. Like you have a break from the presentation and you say, right, we're going to do this. Like if we're doing it live, it's next to impossible. So I would just say, pause it here and try that. Or what I want you to try after the presentation is this.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then
And
jump on Zoom and stuff. But in person, like you would just pause and you'd start the activity sort of there.
yeah,
And get
yeah.
people working. And that's what we'll be doing hopefully sometime soon.
Well, yeah. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. So yeah, again, that sort of links in with context, doesn't it, as well? When, where, how are you delivering the presentation? Who are you delivering it to? It's going to call for different sort of techniques. And
I would say out of them, coaching's probably the easiest one to do because you're normally doing something like it's got a specific purpose of what you're doing, whereas like a presentation might not be. It might just be them retaining information, like health and safety, for example. Like, there's not a lot they can physically do. There's exercises and stuff like quizzes and all that sort of stuff. But
yeah, of course.
if they're coming in and you need to, I don't know, set up a new smartphone, that's something you can visually show them and they can visually do sort of in front of you and you can take them through the steps.
Yeah.
Whereas like a health and safety training, there's not much they can physically do to demonstrate it. You know what I mean? Like
definitely, yeah.
The face-to-face sort of coaching is the more enjoyable one to do because you're a bit more active.
I think so as well. Yeah, having done, because obviously the majority of my work for so many years was pretty much face-to-face coaching,
PT,
really. And of course, again, that's not even probably something that you'd think of as a presentation.
Yeah.
It was work. I was just working with a client and trying to get them results in the gym. When at the same time, every bit of information that I'm trying to get across, every exercise, every sort of teaching point, flatten your back, stick your chest out, that sort of thing. Don't lock your knees out on the leg press. That sort of thing. It's obviously really important to get it across clearly to the point where I would feel comfortable saying to somebody, right, go away and do that without me there to watch you. Because of course that was another thing I had to think about. Am I going to be then asking these people to do these exercises or to use the information I've given them?
Yeah.
When I'm not there to back it up as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to coach someone virtually. It's tough to do like even the digital side, like even giving someone the digital, something that would have taken 2 minutes to show them, like lean, just over the shoulder and point to the screen and say, you need to click that and then click that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And then you get them to do it a few times, like that becomes a half an hour task sometimes.
Yeah, of course,
because you're not there to just point at the screen. Like it as much as we are digital, like there's a lot of things where we would normally work a lot better face to face. And your demonstrations, like you can show them on their device, for example, which is another barrier. Like, it's all very well and good I'm showing you on this computer and where I've got everything laid out in a certain way, but sometimes they've got a layout on that's completely different.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, well, I don't have that, I can't see that. So it's showing them that as well. Yeah. So it's a whole new challenge at the minute.
Yeah. I think over the last year we've realised just how much face-to-face interaction adds.
Yeah.
And of course,
definitely, like,
yeah,
relaying information 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. I for all the PT sessions I've done over the years, I couldn't even begin to start coaching somebody through like a video call or a Zoom. You just
yeah. I mean, the only way I've seen it done is people record like a workout and you go back through it and say, when you're doing, I don't know, your squats, your back's not arched, your 100 or things like that. Like, you're giving them feedback on a video, basically.
Well, yeah, pretty much like our workout videos that we've got on the channel.
Yeah.
Like the way I've done them is almost as a presentation of, right, this is how we're going to do these exercises. This is how we're going to do it safely. This is what you can try if that's not working, or it's giving you a little bit of pain or something like that. As opposed to me just doing a workout and filming it and saying, right, guys, you sort of follow along.
Yeah.
And again, even just the way I've done the videos and broken them down and taken time to explain every exercise, that's the most control I can have over it, really. I can't be there to make sure that those tips are being followed, but at the same time, I've made sure that they're on the video as well, which has, it's a scale at the minute, isn't it? It's a case of doing what you can as best you can for the time being.
Yeah.
Obviously living with restrictions and stuff like that as well. But there's definitely no substitute for face to face in a lot of ways. I would say anyway.
I think it'll be. I think you've got to be able to do. If you're going to be doing something where you've got to do presentations a lot, you've probably just got to try them all and find a style that suits you the best.
Yeah.
For what you're doing as well, like context is, like I say, important. Like Rob said earlier, it's important. You'll get some people who just rely entirely on like videos and that. Which is fine. Do you know what I mean? I've been to training in the past where you could tell it wasn't particularly their subject area, but they've been asked to do it, and it's like that's always tough because if you're not an expert in what you're talking about, you're gonna at some point gonna get found out, and it's not gonna be great. But yeah, they rely a lot more on videos and things like that. But as long as they get the information, I think it's fine. And as long as you make like an adjustment, if someone's saying I'm struggling with this, like you help them out.
Well, of course. Yeah, and that sort of thing comes with time and a little bit of experience as well, doesn't it? What can go wrong and what to do if it does go wrong. But
and again, don't practice for stuff that you're never gonna do. Pointless sitting up and rehearsing a presentation for like a job interview if you're going to go in there and just talk about like your experience and that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a good point as well.
I'd imagine that falls almost under the sales sort of one where you're trying to sell your what you can offer basically to that company. Yeah,
you're trying to sell whatever you've got. This it's exactly the same if you were to go on the Dragon's Den. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
if you were
like
to
go
on the Dragon's Den and pitch to Duncan Bannatyne and the rest of
I don't know who else is still a dragon.
No, I'm not sure actually. But you would go in with all the information, all your stats, all your sales, all your business info. If you just go in and end up talking about a load of other stuff, it's not going to get you very far, is it?
No.
Well, like you say, if you've rehearsed all your sales info and stuff like that, and you get in there, but at the same time, if all you know are those figures and they start asking you other questions as well, you're going to be a little bit snookered. Like Hatham says, sooner or later they're going to find out whether you actually do know really how much you know about the subject that you are talking about. And sales is a big one, and like you say, buddy, I guess a job interview is very similar in that, you're trying to almost sell yourself, aren't you, and get yourself across the benefits that would come from hiring you, what you could bring to the workforce and to the environment as well.
Yeah.
So again, that style of sort of presentation when you're trying to convince, aren't you? You're not just trying to relay information, you're trying to convince somebody of something. You need a little bit more influential. And then of course we've got our educational videos, that might be again similar to what we're doing this morning, your presentations, but then there's going to be some visuals in there. There might be even, like Hatham says, little videos, little clips that you might have that you'll go to, that might even just run for 30 seconds or a minute or two, break it up a little bit more, give the audience something to listen to that's maybe not your voice for a little bit, or again, just break up the text, like I say, if I'm watching a presentation and they flick to the next slide, or it just looks like if it comes up and it's just like a wall or a slide full of text, I'm like, oh man, here we go. Do you know what? Yeah. Do you know what? I'm just going to let him talk to us about this. and just try and take it in. Whereas if it's bullet points, you'll go, okay, bang, 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 bang. This is what this is going to be about, and then you might even be a little bit more engaged with what the speaker's talking about, and you're definitely going to be more interested in what's actually being relayed over to you, because you've not been sort of put off by this just sort of block of text, which is it's again we can come. Yeah, we can come back to what we mentioned earlier on. Can you have headings, subheadings, little sections, little paragraphs? Oh yeah, Gary's just said what wall of text. Yeah, being sick, little face. Yeah, that'll do it.
Doesn't help.
That'll do it, mate. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, there's a lot of different types of presentations. So we can move away from that idea, maybe of just thinking like, right, it's always going to be a PowerPoint presentation. Hopefully by now you guys watching back, we're realizing that we're going to be doing a poster.
Yeah.
Which is it's almost like a different type of medium, really, isn't it? So again, is your poster going to be sort of more bullet points for you to talk about, and to sort of keep you right? Or is it going to be have a little bit more information on there? So yeah, you can stand and you can deliver the presentation as well, but it can also do a job when you aren't there. Can it go up on the wall somewhere and people can just go over and read in their own time? Yeah. Because that increases the scope, really, of the people that you can hit. There might be a lot of people that can't make it to your presentation as you're giving it. But if your presentation can, like I say, speak for itself without you there, and it's got enough information to sort of stand alone, you don't know how many people are going to read that poster over the years once it's gone up, or even like a poster that we might put up online, flyers, that sort of thing. You don't know how far it's going to go if it can get the information across that it needs to. Do you know what I mean? Like if I just put like if I just wrote the names of a couple of media savvy courses and blasted them out onto like a poster and put them online, it doesn't really help anybody. Who are they for?
Yeah, definitely.
Who do we look to? Who do we look to help? Who could these courses be the most beneficial to? So again, getting the right amount of information on there for what you want the presentation to say and how you want them to say it is going to be important as well. Okay, so we'll roll on to the next slide then, buddy. So we've got an idea sort of when presentations might be needed. We've got an idea what different types of presentations we might have at our disposal that we can use. What tools we've got, what we've got in the old toolbox that we can pull out as and when we need it.
Yeah. So
hopefully by now you're starting to get a little bit of an idea of something that you would like to do your presentation about, something that again is going to be something that's quite close to home. We're going to get a look at some examples next week, actually, that some of our learners have done in the past, and one of them was on meal prep, and it was a learner who, he wasn't just stepping into meal prep, he wasn't just starting meal prep, and he hadn't just read about the idea of sort of meal prep. He lived it every day, pretty much. He was preparing meals for the next day, the day after that, maybe it's a full week's worth in one go, to the point where he actually had some insights that even I hadn't really thought about, as someone who sort of meal preps through maybe these busy periods or times where I'm struggling and not really got the appetite and all that sort of thing. When there's barriers in the way, that's when I'll try to meal prep a little bit more. This guy was doing it every day, so he was coming across not only problems that I've come across before, but he actually figured out solutions to those problems. So again, it was something that, just because it was something that he did every day, and he knew a lot about, he was actually he taught me something. It was really interesting presentation to have a read through, and pick up some different ideas. So again, anything exactly, yeah, buddy. Fresh perspective. But anything that is sort of important to you, that you feel is close to your heart within the health, fitness, well-being side of things, is fair game. We can pick from any of those to do this presentation on. So yeah, hopefully, it's not like you've got to present a a sales pitch for a product that you don't believe in or something like that. It's going to be something that
you know about.
Yeah, you chances are you're gonna know more about than I do anyway.
Hope so.
Pretty much, yeah, definitely. Okay, so where do we start? Oh, Gary's actually in the chat, and Gary's done one of these in the past. Yeah, he made an anxiety poster. Just on living with anxiety, kind of day in day out, and again, anxiety and anxious feelings are something that I'm sure everybody gets and everybody experiences, but that can't give you any idea what it's like really to live with that day in day out.
Yeah.
And the extent that it can go to sometimes. Now, Gary, even in just reading through your poster, because I have read through that poster actually, and it gives insight and it gives sort of context and it gives experience that, like I say again, I've never come across, and it was really helpful for me in being able to do, because I think I was still working in the gym at the time, helping people work around anxieties related to starting the gym, starting personal training, that sort of thing. So again, it gave me perspective that I just through my own experiences don't have, which is sometimes why people are listening to a presentation, just to get that extra insight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I say, fresh set of eyes. Something you've not perhaps thought about in the past.
Yeah, 100%, buddy. Okay, so where do we go from here then? So where we're going to go from here? We're going to pick a topic. It doesn't matter so much if you haven't got it down by the end of the day. Spend a little bit of time over the next week just really sort of locking in that choice and being happy with the decision and the choice that you're going to make. From there, you're going to go away, and of course you're going to do a little bit of research on it, depending obviously how up to scratch you already feel. I'm sure there's a few of you might just feel, you know what, I'm going to do my poster on this, and I can fill a page on that.
Yeah.
For some of you, it might be actually cutting down and sort of trimming what information you're going to put on there, and maybe even decide what to leave off.
Yeah.
But again, that's something you can decide once you've picked your topic. Doesn't matter, like I say, it's not the be all and end all for today. Whether we get that topic down, but it is something that we're going to work on in the workbooks over the next week. What we can start to think about is know your audience, which in this case, that the audience is me, and I'm sure everybody knows as well enough by now. Hopefully, certainly not enough or enough to realize that it's nothing to stress about, or to feel anxious or worried about. But of course, maybe, if you're feeling adventurous, can you think beyond delivering it to me and sort of doing it as part of the course? Can we think a little bit further ahead, like Gary maybe, and think, right, you know what? I'd like to put something together that the guys at Media Savvy could put up in a classroom or something like that,
Yeah.
Like I say, some of these are really, really, really sort of valuable and resourceful to me in terms of, like I say, helping me sort of research and look into different topics and stuff like that as well, So all of those posters that I read through are really helpful, and really sort of insightful. So if you're feeling brave and if you're feeling adventurous, maybe try and think about it in the context of, right, okay, I'd like this poster to be able to go up on a wall and get the information across without necessarily me needing to be there to sort of talk over the top of it every single time. So that's something we could think about as well. But of course, know your audience. At the minute, it's just me. If you're thinking any further than me, think about who it's going to be. Is it going to be further media savvy learners down the line? When I'm doing this course in future, and I'm saying, oh, do you know what? This person from the time the course ran knocked this up. Let's have a look at that.
Are you doing anything with other groups that you work with?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you part of any voluntary groups? Do you do any other work for anyone else? That sort of thing. These are the skills you can carry over into that whatever it is you do and whatever message you're trying to get across.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? At the end of the day, if it is something, if you're picking sort of like like an activity or something like that. You know, you might decide, do you know what? Even just getting out for a walk and stuff like that, rambling, hiking, getting out and moving a little bit more.
Yeah.
You can almost use this as almost sort of like an advocacy for it, can't you?
Yeah.
You know, this might be a presentation that, yeah, you deliver it to me for the course, but it might actually go on to within, like you say, buddy, within certain other groups.
Oh,
It
definitely.
might actually inspire other people to get a little bit more active and actually start doing it, you know? So is your presentation trying to inspire that in anybody, or is it just deliver the information? Again, it's going to be different from presentation to presentation. So we've got know your audience. Of course, the main points that you'd like your audience to know.
Yeah.
What do they need to take away? What is the outcome? What does the outcome need to be? Do you need to assess whether outcomes have been hit? You know, again, when it comes to awarding certificates and stuff like that and signing people off, giving a qualification, again, not so much what you guys need to think about, but presentations that we might use in the future, you know, how can you make sure that people have taken away what it is that you're trying to get across to them? And of course, before we do that, we need to know what points you are trying to get across.
Yeah.
You know, are you trying to talk about symptoms and sort of effects of living with a disability or something like that? You know, again, is it a sport and you're trying to get across the main health benefits of that sport, you know? That's that sort of thing. So what exactly is it that you're trying to say, you know, to the audience? We're not just picking a subject, handpicking a load of information, slapping it on a poster and saying, like, right, there you go.
Yeah, like
job
a
done.
Wikipedia article, like, sort of.
Pretty much, yeah.
Try and relate it to what, like, you're in, like Rob saying, something that you're interested in, and that you can relay that information that you already know, but back it up with, like, some kind of source.
Yeah. Again, coming back to that sort of one-to-one sort of face-to-face coaching style. Again, like, I was delivering my coaching and my personal training in a certain way because, like I say, I needed to know that the information had sank in, and I needed it to be sort of clear. The purpose was so people could listen to it and then go away and do the exercises safely. That was the purpose of it, really. You know, there's education and trying to help people get the most out of their time and their training. But the most important thing for me when I was delivering a new exercise, especially a new exercise, is how do we do it safely? How do we not hurt ourselves to the point where other little details about the technique can come in time? You know, if we can make sure that you're not going to slip a disc and throw your back out doing a squat, can we worry about sort of angle of knees or sort of angle of your chest later on? And again, as the emphasis moves away from safety and more accuracy and technique, I guess sort of looking back, the style in which I would coach and the information I would give would be totally different. You know, so again, I guess it all comes down to what it is you want your audience to take away and to know. Is probably as important as the context of the presentation in general. You know, who are you giving it to and when. Then we've got our what we would call sort of like an order of delivery. You know, so I guess structure. You know, if we're going to call it that way. You know, like this morning, I know that we're starting. We're gonna start with a word search. You know, that's at the start because it's a good exercise to get obviously the mind working, get us all engaged, give everybody time to get into the chat that's going to be coming into the chat, and of course gives time as well for me to talk about in a little bit more detail what the session's going to be about while you guys are working on an activity. Then we can roll into, like, we break it down from the start, don't you? You know, what do you need to think about first? What we did this morning was it was why what might we need to give a presentation, you know, and we just move on from there, and you continue to build up. You know, you don't want to start at the end. You know, we're not Quentin Tarantino. Where you start at the beginning and work all the way through. Yeah, keep it simple.
You don't want because towards the end you'd be doing a recap, so you don't want to do a recap at the start, do you?
Well, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Some weeks we might recap on the previous week, you know, just to realize why it's fresh and why it links in with the session that we're doing that day. But yeah, you know, like Hatham says, you wouldn't have a slide that says in conclusion.
Or you wouldn't do your quiz. You wouldn't do your quiz at the start and be like, how much do you know about the subject I've taught you nothing about?
Yeah, definitely. Really fill people with confidence before they even start. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, your structure as well, you know, and then of course it can give you an idea where you are if you lose your place as well. Again, coming back to that wedding speech,
doors gone again.
Yeah, no worries, buddy. I had separate, like very distinctive paragraphs that I knew. It got to the point where I'd rehearsed it that much that I knew that the end of one paragraph linked in with the start of the next, so that structure was so easy to sort of follow. You know, I was like, okay, I've done this bit, I've talked about that bit, I know where I go from here, and I know why I'm going there from here. And again, just gives you a little bit more structure. You can use stuff like cue cards as well, you know, to sort of keep you right in your structure. Some people prefer to give it without. It seems a little bit more organic, but at the same time, sometimes cue cards can make you come across as like a little bit nervous as well, or it might actually make you feel a little bit nervous, where you don't feel comfortable taking your eyes off the paper in case you lose your place where you're going to actually look up, you know. Whereas sometimes, cue cards can help keep you a little bit more focused, keep it a little bit more snappy, even if it doesn't feel as warm and personal, you know. Again, when I was giving that wedding speech, I made a point of I had cue cards, but again, like in a room full of people that I know, it adds so much more to the presentation in a room full of people that you know, to be able to look around the room and make eye contact with a few people, you know. I found that quite sort of comforting, as nervous as I was about the fact to start with, that it was a room full of people that I knew, looking up and seeing, do you know what I mean, looking over and seeing Alex, seeing me, my mum, my dad, family, all of that sort of thing. It's like, it adds a little bit more to the presentation to be able to look around and maybe make eye contact with people, you know, let them see your facial expressions as well as your body language, as opposed to just sort of like looking at your cue cards and sort of worrying about taking your eyes off your cue card for losing your place, you know. If it is maybe a different, more formal sort of setting, and they just need you to deliver the pitch, deliver the information, I'm sure that working from cue cards pretty much 100% of the time is going to be less of an issue, you know. Hatham, I know by now that you're a wing it when you can kind of guy.
Yeah.
When you're going in and you need to have information and stuff like that, I know you're saying you'll sometimes have like supplementary information to go with the slides and stuff like that. Do you ever use like cue cards and stuff like that? Or would you just work from the slide?
Depends on the setup really, but yeah. Sometimes if it was like a stage or whatever, yeah, I'd probably have like something. Might have my phone open just on, if there's like a table or whatever, I might just have my phone propped up with like some stuff to say, a bit of paper, you know what I mean, some notes. And I never really have a script. Like I just sort of have the information and I relay it the best I can on the day. Yeah. Sometimes it goes better than others. Sometimes I have to go back. I'm like, right, hang on, we'll have to do that again.
Rerun.
But there's nothing worse, in my opinion, than like reading directly from me, because I feel like I'm not doing a good job of saying it. So I would never do like a script, but cue cards work really well. Yeah, it's just like a bullet pointed list.
Yeah, can come off as a little bit robotic, can't it?
Yeah, I have no enthusiasm when I'm just reading straight off of the slides, and then you'll see that like this, and then I fade away in and out, so I have to like I have to construct the sentences myself. But yeah, definitely having some kind of notes, a bit on your phone, bit of paper. If you want to get someone with like the old school, like the big cue card at the back, and they can hold it up, like
the old teleprompter style. Yeah.
Or you can get a teleprompter if you're lucky enough. Class. We did a bit of work in the TV studio when I was at uni, and they've got like a teleprompter style
Yeah,
machine.
that'd be pretty
You can
cool.
also
Like,
get the sign for applause and laughter as well if you like. That you can just hold up
yeah, class.
if you want. But yeah, definitely, I wouldn't try and memorize it all. 100% not.
No,
Definitely not.
how do you feel if you sit down to listen to a presentation and the person giving the presentation is just purely working
Ah,
from cue cards? Does it affect your?
it's fine. It depends on the style of like delivering it. Like I say, if they're reading directly from a script, I'm likely to fall asleep.
Yeah,
It's too
yeah,
robotic.
mhm,
It's like to the point where it's like relaxing. That I know it's just they're in like a flow of just gonna read like this at the same words per minute. Like that they get however they read, however quick they read or whatever, you get used to it. Whereas
yeah,
if you're having a conversation that's natural, or if you're speaking and you're vocalizing the notes, you're putting the words out there, you'll have natural pauses and you'll have little breaks in when you're saying it because you're having to think,
mhm,
which makes it
yeah,
more to me more relatable. Um,
yeah,
and you hear like the little idiosyncrasies like and like and all that sort of stuff. Like you, that to me makes me a lot more receptive to it because I feel
yeah,
like it's how you would normally talk.
yeah. It's almost like a conversation, isn't it? It sounds
Yeah,
a little bit more like a conversation,
definitely.
which seems it sounds more natural to our ears, I think.
It's easier for me to focus on what they're saying when they do that.
Yeah,
I
which is
always
funny because
sorry,
you
go
think
on.
with like and thrown in all the time, it'd be harder to
Mm.
follow. But yeah, it does make it a little bit easier on the ears, I find as well.
Sometimes people do really mad ones, and sometimes I'll do it.
Hmm.
Um, and there's lots of likes, or they'll have like little phrases like "say for instance," or and then as soon as you pick up on one, you're like, "Oh no, it's all
Yeah,
I can hear
yeah,
is that thing." But it's just I feel like if you over you gotta find the balance between rehearsing it a little bit and knowing what
yeah.
you're saying.
Mhm,
You want to get the basic points of what you're trying to get across
mhm.
down. But I feel like if you over rehearse it, it's not going to be as good. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to get caught out. So
Yeah,
you need to find the fine line between not necessarily rehearsing, but just reviewing your notes and making sure you've got the information up here. So
yeah,
if it's about like all the health and fitness stuff, you've got a basic understanding of them without having to refer to your notes. But you might refer to your notes, say if it's like how to calculate your BMI, you might not know that off the top of your head. So
hmm,
you'll have the chart there to go back to and say, okay, so if you're this age and this weight, and you wouldn't know
yeah,
that, but you know roughly how it's done in the process and why it's done, and you
yeah,
can explain that and then refer back to whatever specific information it is when you need to.
yeah, yeah,
I think that
definitely. And
works the best for me. But
yeah,
some people it won't work for. So yeah, everyone's different.
yeah, and it just made me think, really, actually, buddy, when you were saying there, like, I think I would prefer to hear, or like, it wouldn't bother me at all to hear a little bit of nerves in somebody's voice because it shows to me that they just want to do a good job and that they probably care quite a lot about the presentation that they're about to give,
Yeah,
or the subject of that presentation that they wanted to give, that
you
me,
guys will be fine as well because you get to pick what it's about. So
yeah, of course,
it always helps when you know what it's about and you've done the research,
yeah,
and B, you can be enthusiastic about it because you've chosen the topic.
yeah,
So choose
yeah,
something you like, choose something that you enjoy, or choose something that's important to you. Gary did one on anxiety, which is not something you would enjoy, but it's
yeah,
something you know about, and it's something if you've experienced it, it makes you passionate about like how to deal with it, and it gives you that. You can tell when someone's interested in what they're talking about.
definitely,
They're not
yeah,
having to force a smile. They're in a they're getting you're getting a flow as well. When you're
yeah,
talking about something you you've got the information up here, and if you can get into a flow of talking about it, it comes across a lot better. Um,
yeah,
and if you do lose your train of thought, like you say, like I say, you just refer back to your notes, and you should pick it back up quite easily.
yeah,
I've lost count of the amount of times I've been doing an online class or a class in person, or I did an After Effects one, which was like an animation for beginners. And by the second day, the last couple hours, I'd talked for that much about it. I was like, do you know what it is, guys? Like, I'm not going to do any more of this presentation. We're just let's go. Like,
yeah,
let's just have a go. Just open your computers up and just finish off what you were working on. Cause like, I'm saying words and they're not making any sense. Like,
Yeah, you get to that point.
you burn yourself out after a
Mhm.
while.
Yeah,
Know when to take a break, know when to open up for questions, know when to play your video.
yeah,
This is where you
yeah,
like. I'm saying I ad lib stuff, but I do plan to have certain things that if it's not going quite right, I can. Okay, let's stop. Let's pause there for a second.
yeah, yeah.
Um, that's where like your order of delivery, your time restrictions, um, you start, middle, and end. Like if it's a full day, you're doing a full day session, you're gonna need a break in the middle. Like no
Yeah.
one's gonna want to sit and A, listen to a presentation, or B, just sit still for 8, 9 hours or whatever it's gonna be. Like it's not gonna happen. Especially not
Well,
on Zoom.
yeah,
Like dear me.
yeah.
When
That's it. If I jump on Zoom for someone's presentation and we're there for 9 hours, guys.
you're to fail, unfortunately. It
Yeah,
might be the best
yeah.
presentation in the world, but you've not done your time restrictions correctly.
Yeah. At the same time, don't stress too much about how long it's going to be. You know, it's not a case of you've got like was it elevator pitches for business that they say it's going to be like 2 minutes. Yeah,
30
something
seconds to
like.
2 minutes, I believe, is an elevator pitch.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have to worry too much about that, but of course, any presentations that you're doing in future, that is something that we've got to think about before we start or while we're in the planning phase.
See, it was annoying because every time I've done them as part of like a project, they'll say, "Oh, it needs to be 5 minutes long, or it needs to be 10 minutes long." It's like I can't really predict how long it's going to take me to relay this information, especially not if I have to check whether someone's retained it. Like I can't put a time limit on how long it takes someone to ask me a question or how long it takes someone to understand something that I've said.
Yeah, to learn the information and to know the information
So to
themselves. Yeah.
tell me there's a 15-minute presentation, that's great. But like if I open it up at the end and say, has anyone got any questions? And like 6 people have all got a question, that's going to take longer than 15 minutes to answer
Of
it.
course it is. Of
So
course it is.
that's the whole length of the presentation. So yeah, I don't stress about the time. I think if you've got a minimum time in mind, I don't know if you do, Rob.
Not even in particular, you know, because
Okay.
I know that people are gonna people talk at their own pace, people move at their own pace. You know, again, if you're gonna have a load more information on there, so the presentation does speak for itself quite a lot. You know, if it was like on a wall or something like that, you might even find that you might end up talking more about it. You might talk a little bit less because you might just go through what's on the poster and then that might be it.
Yeah.
You know, at the same time, you might end up going off on tangents, and if you're happy and talking about something that's important to you and that you've really got a lot of insight into, I'm gonna sit and listen. Do you know what I mean? Because I find it all interesting. You know.
Yeah.
So again, like there's not even any particular time that we've got to think about. Obviously, maybe it's just a couple of minutes. But of course, if we're talking about something that again is something that is really important to you, hopefully a couple of minutes it shouldn't be any bother at all. For my wedding speech, I think I timed it to about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But again, you know, it comes down to context, and it's not anything I'd stress about too much.
I think as long as you know, like you guys will know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
If you can you've got to imagine Rob is a blank canvas when you're giving it, and he doesn't know anything about the subject. Can you get the basic ideas of what you're talking about over to him in a short amount of time, as probably as short as possible? And that doesn't mean just come off and rifle them off, but like explain it in 5 to 10 minutes. I'd imagine would be adequate.
Yeah, that'll do. 5 minutes would do. You know, 10 minutes would be absolutely bang on.
Yeah.
So again, you know, don't stress too much about that.
And if you go over or if you're slightly under, that's fine. You'll be
yeah, that's it. Yeah, 100%.
And you're not marking them really on the information that's in there per se.
Not at all. Not at all.
It's how they're putting it across to you.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, so that in future we can go away and use these presentation skills elsewhere. You know, wherever that might be sort of asked of us, and we'll be ready to rock.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just having a look because I remember as part of the set PD course we had some You crack on. I'll try and find it. There was like some links we sent out of like how to do. It was like all about presentation skills, so I'll try and dig it out.
Yeah, no worries, buddy. Cheers, man. I think we've pretty much covered that slide. To be honest,
Yeah.
we've mentioned practicing it, and once you've done it, once your poster's done, try presenting it to yourself, to the mirror, whatever, the dog, if the dog will listen.
Yeah.
Anybody who'll listen, it's repetition as well, isn't it?
Don't if you picture whatever Michael Scott would do and do the complete opposite of that.
Except register for BT, learn my way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely do that. But yeah, if you want to see how presentations aren't done, just watch the US office. There's like one an episode, pretty much.
Yeah. Is there anything on Learn My Way about using PowerPoint? I know there's using software, isn't there?
Yeah, there's presentation software specifically. That might be on the digital skills directory. Let me just hang on. I'll find that. I'll sort that out.
No worries, mate. Cool. I'll push on. We've only got one more slide to do anyway.
Cool. It should be up now.
Okay, cool. So yeah, just to sort of finish us off for today, really. Looking at just different visuals that we can use and how it's going to sort of engage the audience and get them listening to and staying sort of engaged and focused with what it is that you're saying. Of course, we've got pictures that we can use. The old saying, a picture sometimes says a 1,000 words. Yeah, exactly.
Don't know what those words always are like, but
no,
depends on the picture.
Hopefully they're relevant words. Yeah. At the same time, they can break a slide up. They can add a little bit more context to what it is that you're trying to say. It can be a picture of whatever it is that you're talking about, sort of in action. It does. It's something to draw the eye as well a little bit. Again, especially if it's got a little bit of sort of text around it. It can just work as sometimes like a little bit of a focal point, catch somebody's eye as they're walking down the corridor, if it is a poster that's up on the wall. Yeah, pictures can be really helpful.
Quickly, I've found it's not just to interrupt while I'm on the topic, while I remember, it's not Learn My Way. It's still run by them, but it's part of the Make It Click campaign that they did, which is basically an expansion on the Learn My Way website. But if you go to it, I'll put the link in the chat. But if you go there and if you register, ask for your name, email address, password, and your center. So if you are registering and you want to do any of the resources, if you just type in Media Savvy in there, that one will come up there. So Media Savvy CIC, which is 800-4051. That's our center, and that'll register you with us through this service.
Yeah.
And then anything you complete, we can see that and sort of mark it off as that you've done it. But if I go to subjects, and there's one presentations, so one of the subjects is presentations.
Awesome.
Click on it. There's 18 resources. Now, some of them link to a Learn My Way. So on the logo there is Learn My Way, which is these guys have created that. Some of the other ones are linked to like Google. So like Google videos. Some of them are blog posts from around the web, like experts that they've pulled together. So there's guides and stuff on how to structure your presentation, how to speak in public. There's free images, so they've got links to, you're talking about pictures there. They've got a link to a website called Unsplash, which is copyright free images. So we can take a quick look at that actually. So when you go through the Make It Click thing and you do your different subjects, it'll tell you whether it's an external website or not. So this tool opens a new tab or window. Do you want to continue? Yes, continue to Unsplash. And it takes me to this website for free high-res images. So if we did, I don't know, let's say you were going to do a presentation on running. I always feel like I'm compelled to say it like Forrest Gump, and I don't know why. But there, for example, you've got these free pictures of some people doing some running.
Oh, cool.
Some of them look very precarious, like this dude's on the edge of a mountain, which, to be honest, wouldn't be too fussed about doing that. Like,
no, it's not my first choice of places to run.
But you can just click download free in the top right and literally just download it. And then you can, if you want, shout them out on like social media, and say, you know, thanks for the free image. And that
Yeah.
But this is really good resource for gathering your pictures, like Rob was just explaining. So
Yeah.
a picture can say
Yeah.
1,000 words, and there's some they're all high resolution ones on there. So when you bring them into PowerPoint or Google Slide, they won't be like this tiny little dot in the middle. They'll be quite big, which means they'll look better. They're not pixelated.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, definitely. If you're wanting to get more skills outside of the session, you want to brush up a little bit more and look at specific guides in your own time. This I'll put the link to that one. So the subject is presentations on there.
Yeah.
There's a link to that in there now. And that's the one I was looking for. That was part of the set PD stuff that we looked at. So very useful.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
There's a few videos on there. There's a few like blog posts that you can just read. So like you might be thinking, oh, I don't want to do another course. But like, for example, there is where is it? I've just seen it. How to use Slide Master. No. How to structure your presentation is just a guide. So if we click on that one, it's just a blog post about like some things to think about. So, you know, you might just have 10 minutes, maybe sitting in the garden in the sun today. It's very sunny outside.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Have a little read of that while you do a bit sunbathing, or while you eat your dinner. I was going to say your soup, but it's too hot for soup today. Unless you're having gazpacho, which is a cold Spanish soup. Very nice, very tasty.
Very healthy as well. I've never had it actually. Tomato in it. Tomato. Yeah.
Some more vegetables you can add to it. Very nice. Not for everyone. Some people don't like cold soup.
Yeah. I don't think I can get away with cold soup.
It's quite nice.
Yeah.
Quite tasty. And then you can go and have your siesta at 12 o'clock. So yeah, there you go. Some resources for pictures and different guides. Yeah. Like I said, not necessarily courses, stuff to just read in your own time. Or when you're preparing, do you know what I mean? Use it as part of your prep.
Yeah, definitely. Because of course, the more you know and the more comfortable you feel, the more comfortable you're going to feel just coming on and delivering it, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, excellent. Bang on. Yeah, cheers for digging them out, buddy.
So they're in the chat anyway.
Nice one. Okay, cool. So, got pictures. We've even gone one step further and hooked you up with a bank full of uncopyrighted pictures as well. So they're all there if you do want to use any. Diagrams, you know, I'd sort of mentioned earlier on, charts, that sort of thing, you know, maybe it's a graph or a table showing how sales have gone, or again, you know, relating it back to what you guys are going to do, it might be how many more people are doing a sport now compared to 10 years ago or whatever, you know. Sometimes that's a little bit easier to get across in like a diagram or a chart or a graph or something like that. Of course, we always want a good, strong title so people know what they're in for. You know, it might be the first thing that they see. It might not be the first thing that they see. They might maybe see a couple of your images first or whatever, you know, and they're scanning around the page. Maybe, you know, if you're doing a poster, maybe your title's not at the top. Maybe it's smack bang in the middle. You know, nice and central, and you've got like a spider's web sort of thing coming up from there. Yeah. That sort of thing, you know, but a good strong title, it just lets people know what they're learning about or what they're going to be learning about. You know, some situations they're going to know what they're meant to be learning about. You know, if they're interviewing you for a job, they know full well that, you know, they're going to be sat there listening to points about yourself, listening to stuff about you. If they've attended a conference for whatever, you know, maybe it's to help with their own skills or something, they know that that's what they're there for. At the same time, no worries, bud. It doesn't hurt to have just like a good, like we say, a good, strong, easy to see, easy to read title on there, so people who maybe aren't so sure what it's going to be about can just be in the know as well. And we've got subheadings in different sections and stuff like that we kind of mentioned earlier on as well. You know, you might have, again, if you're talking about meal prep, you might have a section that is all to do with what you do when you're at the shops. Then another section to say, well, when you're in the kitchen, these are sort of the procedures that I follow, and this is the way that I do things. You know, then you might have a different section for storing them afterwards. You know, do they go in the freezer? Do you refrigerate some of them? Again, just make it easy. So if people are thinking, do you know what, I'd like to know a little bit more about this aspect of it, they can go, oh, there's a subhead in there. I can just sort of divert me gaze over to there and pick out all the information that I'm going to need. And it breaks it up a little bit as well. It's not just a whole sheet of information and like, here you go, chuck it all at you and hope some of it sticks sort of thing. It is really structured. Them subheadings are going to be picked out, hopefully to sort of help reinforce the point that you're trying to get across with the presentation. So a little bit of clarity and a little bit of structure and making sure we've got different subheadings and different paragraphs and stuff like that can make it a little bit easier to digest from the learner's point of view. And we've got props as well, which is something that we haven't really talked about, minus cue cards, and maybe a drink of water that you might have to maybe buy yourself a couple of seconds to catch your breath or to recompose yourself, sort of thing. But you can actually have physical props that can actually help the presentation as well.
I think you mentioned the first aid one as well, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. Where we're using sort of like dummies and stuff like that.
But we've done we've recorded training videos for people like since COVID, and they've had whatever the training video was explaining. So it's a training video to go alongside like a piece of equipment that someone's going to have to learn how to use. Previously, they'd been in the classroom, so they would have just passed this thing around. But then they'll send them out that thing, but they've got it there as a prop to say, okay, what you'll need to do next is press that and fold this out and that sort of thing.
It's good thinking. Yeah. What I've done before, it was one of the drop-ins actually. I was trying to demonstrate how much sugar is in fizzy drinks. Yeah. These days, a lot. But if I stand there and say there's a lot of sugar in fizzy drinks these days, it's like, well, people already kind of know that. Yeah. At the same time, it doesn't tell you exactly how much. What drinks are better than other drinks, for example. So what I actually did was I've got some clear plastic cups, and I worked out how much sugar was in each of these drinks, wrote the name on the side, and then spooned that amount of sugar into the cup. Yeah. So it'd be like, okay, this. You might read a can of Lucozade or a bottle of Lucozade, and it might say, okay, there's 50 grams of sugar in there. Yeah. You're like, okay, there's 50 grams of sugar. What does that mean? Yeah, how do I relate that back to anything? Yeah. Once I've spooned 50 grams of sugar into a plastic cup, and you realise that there's not actually much space left for liquid, you realise how much sugar you're actually drinking. And then it made it a lot easier to say, okay, this is where. Obviously, there's none in water. If you would get like diluted squash, something like that, there might be half like a teaspoon in, Yeah. And then you go to the other end of the spectrum where you've got your Red Bull, you've got your Lucozade, your energy drinks, your full fat Coke, that sort of thing. Yeah. I didn't realize until I did that really that there's as much sugar in Fanta as there is in full fat Coke. It kind of makes sense.
Same company that makes it.
It is, yeah, it is. It is
the big trick.
Because I can't drink full fat Coke to be truthful.
I have one every now and then. It's a treat when I have it.
Almost like you can almost feel the sugar coat in your teeth.
Yeah, it makes teeth furry, like definitely.
It really does.
I do like it if I'm having Jack Daniels and Coke. I like full fat Coke.
You'd have that with full fat rather than diet, yeah.
I mean, I'm already pushing the boat's gone. Like it's not even out. It's
well, that's
away
it.
In the distance, like.
Yeah.
If I'm out and I'm doing it, I'm having a full fat. I'm not going to be that guy who asks for can I have a Diet Coke, please? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, nah, come on, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Read the room, know where you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. No, I to be honest, very rarely drink fizzy pop. It's a treat.
Yeah.
I will every now and then do a big binge on it though. Like I'll buy like a slab of the cans of like it's like 24 cans of something, and that we'll have them they'll last about a week in the house, and then that'll be it. We'll not have any more fizzy pop.
Yeah, not be trusted with them. Yeah, definitely.
Although Dan he bought some caffeine-free and sugar-free. No, not sugar-free, caffeine-free root beer, non-alcoholic root beer.
Okay.
which was very nice. It had a decent amount of sugar in, but it was like reduced as well. I can't remember what the brand was.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. Like, if I was gonna have pop it, I'd pick root beer over Coke any day, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Ginger beer as well. I quite like. There's
Yeah.
ginger beer out there.
And of course, the name of what we do when it comes to nutrition is everything in moderation, isn't it? We don't set out to eliminate stuff, especially stuff that we enjoy.
It's good for your props as well. That like having even the physical cans there with the actual like what it's got written on them and stuff.
Yeah,
that's good. Like you do the food labels. Obviously, if you were doing that class in person, you'd have like a printout with them on, or you'd maybe have a box or a food label kicking about.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that worked really well. Obviously, I imagine that probably helped anybody who sort of was there for that session, sort of visualize things a little bit more and like give them a little bit more context. And then there's like that next step where they can actually take it and apply it to their own lives. You know, we had a learner on that course, or a learner that was in that week that was drinking Tropicana orange juice for breakfast every morning as a healthy option. It's one of your 5 a day, isn't it? So it says on the side of the packet anyway.
So
one of your 5 a day. Yeah, exactly. When we broke it down, orange juice was actually one of the ones that I'd done.
Yeah.
And she looked at that and saying, right, I'm having a glass of this for my breakfast every morning. It's essentially a full fat Coke. Like, can I not swap that out for something? What we actually did, we swapped that out for diluted orange juice on a morning, just to keep that orangey taste in there that she likes. But we saved, I think, 40 grams of sugar every morning. You know, which it goes a long way to say that, like, that's probably around about half of the amount we should have every day for the average person. You know, if we were aiming for like that sort of milestone of 80 grams of sugar a day.
Depends what you're doing as well, right? Like, you know,
if
you're very active and you're sweating a lot, like it's still not great, but get away with it a little bit more than you would if you were just sitting completely still.
Yeah, but I think having the props there gave just a little bit more context, you know, to be able to say, okay, like I didn't realize quite how much sugar was in this. You know, you can have the food label there, you can know how to read food labels, till you can put it into a little bit more context and look at it like that. You know, maybe the incentive to change that breakfast drink wasn't there up until that point. You know,
I think it's the same. It can work like visually without a prop as well. Like if you sometimes see like animations and it's like how much I don't know, for example, like CO2 something emits, and it'll show you like a person and then like a cow and then like a power plant, and it sort of scales it up and it gives you an idea of like what the scale is in numbers rather than it does a lot. Like, okay.
Yeah, it does a really big number.
Especially when it's something you can't see. Like, you can't see sugar in your drink. You can't see, like, gases being emitted into the atmosphere. Like, that stuff you can't quantify because you can't visually look at it. So taking that and putting it into something you can look or pick up, like, really helps.
Yeah. Do you know what gets me with exactly that? And it's a little bit of a tangent, but we're nearly done anyway. Space, anything to do with space. You know where they'll say that you'll see a diagram, or even just like the relative size difference, where they'll like give you a full scale image of Earth, and then it just shrinks down to next to nothing, and then this other one turns up like this is Jupiter. Yeah, this is Jupiter, and then the sun's further down the line, and then before you know it, the sun's so small that you can't see it. And it's like, you know what? Like, I know planets are big. I know there's a big difference between them, but without something like that, you just can't. Even with that, you can't really comprehend it. Truth be told,
no, not properly.
At the same time, it really did help just drive the sort of information home of like, okay, these numbers, like they're huge numbers that we're dealing with here.
Definitely,
you know? And like you say, sometimes something that you can have the numbers and you can quantify it, but you can't really sort of comprehend the full context of it. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, a couple of different visuals on there that we can sort of use. You could potentially use all of those in your presentation if you want. You know, just thinking there's not really any of them that aren't really relevant, or
you might struggle with props a little bit because it's obviously going to be like like through Zoom.
Yes, of course, yeah.
But
Yeah.
all the rest of them definitely. And if you've got some kind of prop that you can, it'll depend on what your subject is really. But if you've
Yeah,
got some
yeah,
kind of prop that you can use to explain what you're talking about, go for it.
yeah. And I guess you could even think about the poster as a prop, because
Yeah, definitely.
you're going to be using that to relay the information in more detail to myself.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, you're already going to have your poster to be sort of thinking about and stuff like that. So that might be all the props that you actually need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I say, hopefully we're getting some ideas now about what it is that you'd like to go away and do your poster on. If you're not sure about anything, or you're thinking, do you know what, I'd like to do that, I'm not sure whether that is strictly what Rob's looking for, just drop me an email. Do you know what I mean? Give me a shout. I'd hopefully everybody by the time we get round to next week's session, or when you get round to watching next week's session, if you are watching back, you'll have an idea what your presentation's going to be on. Maybe even have a few ideas what you're going to put on there as well. And then we're all in the same boat, sort of from next week onwards as well. So yeah, as soon as you feel ready as well, I know we're going to do a bit more work on it next week, but as soon as you feel ready, please again just drop me an email. We'll sort out that one-to-one Zoom call and we'll get it done. Because I know, again, you know, hopefully nothing for you guys to stress about, but I know there's nothing worse than being ready to do something and having to wait. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know if I've mentioned to you, buddy. Actually, when I did my spin assessment, I was the last person to turn up, and he was like, "Oh, who wants to go first to do the demonstration?" And of course, nobody put their hand up because nobody ever wants to go first. Who waltzes through the front door at that time? It's me. Turned up. He was like, "Right, Rob, you can go first." And do you know what? I was cursing him. I was cursing him like, "Oh, I can't believe you made me go first." But then I did my 5 minutes, and that was done.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the day I just got to sort of enjoy what everybody else had put together, you know, so it was almost a blessing to have it done. So yeah, as soon as you feel ready to do yours, yeah, let me know and we'll get it boxed off and get it done. That'll about finish up when we get to that point, that'll about finish up the presentation skills workbook that we're going to have a brief little look at now, and yous will just be sort of getting your first look at this week. But yeah, as soon as you feel ready and ready to go, we'll get those done. So just let me know. Yeah, cool. Right, mate. Before we blast on to just have a quick little look at the workbook, if we can just look at the very last slide that we've got there, just in case. Again, like I do every week, just putting it on there so you guys have got somewhere to come back to just see sort of the takeaway from the session and what workbook activities need doing without needing to sort of listen through 2 hours of the session if that is all that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Of course, when you're doing your workbooks, you can obviously come back and use the session again. They're not tests, they're not exams, it's not a memory test. By all means, like I say, come back and revisit the sessions. It's only going to help, obviously, everything just sort of settle in and make a little bit more sense. But yeah, so as always, if you don't mind just taking not even 30 seconds to do the little survey that we've got attached to the session, it does us a big favour, you know, in helping fill paperwork in. And your feedback's really important to us as well, you know, letting us know what we're doing well, and as always, where we could change things up and suit you guys a little bit more. Workbook activities for this week are going to be pages 1 to 4. If you don't mind just dragging that up 2 seconds for us, buddy. And then of course we'll be back next week, next Tuesday 10 till 12. We'll continue working on our presentations and hopefully get to the point where we can start getting in some of them Zoom calls and getting them boxed off, get them done. We might have a little furry faced cameo this time next week.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll
hopefully that's what I was going to say, but yeah,
fingers crossed. Yeah,
I think you'll be fine by that time next week.
Yeah, definitely. Get them settled in. Yeah, definitely. So, all to look forward to. Cool. So we've got the presentation up there. I know we haven't. We've got the workbook up there. Pages. Yeah. 224 anyway. Yeah. So we've done outline the reasons for using presentations. 3 examples why they might be used. We sort of covered that at the start of the session. Presentation styles and when those might be used, pairing them up. That's page 2. Page 3 is just pretty much listing what you need to do now, you know, be it researching this, finding where you're going to get pictures from, sourcing different resources that you're going to use and stuff like that. So identifying the main steps in the planning and preparation of the presentation, on an agreed topic to a small group, which in this case is going to be on whatever topic you pick, to the small group being me, pretty much. And then on the page 4, we've got visual aids, how they can be helpful, and then we're going to actually plan the presentation as well. So we're going to use at least 2 visual aids. Now, again, remember that can be headings, pictures, diagrams, all that sort of thing. And then you're going to make a note of how that's going to engage the audience as well, and just think about the purpose that they're serving in helping the information sort of hit home with the audience that's listening. As well. So cool. Pages 2 to 4. Yeah, 2 to 4.
2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4, and then we'll build on that next week. And I think I'm pretty sure next week finishes up the rest of that booklet, then that one's done, and we can move on and we can really get our heads into some of the extra fitness stuff as well that we're going to do. Cool, right, buddy, that'll about do it from me today then. I've just noticed Hatham's put it all in the chat.
Survey and workbook are both in there.
Awesome, buddy, cool. And of course, worth mentioning that all of our fitness videos are available in their own playlist on the Media Savvy channel now as well. Every week I'll still sort of recommend one of them that pairs up with the session, or one that I think pairs up with the learning that we've done. But by all means, if you get there and you think, do you know what, I'd like to do another one, or I don't feel like I went for a long walk yesterday, so I don't want to do my legs, I want to do abs or something like that, you can just go to the playlist and pull out whichever one you want. And as always, let me know how you're getting on. Let me know how you get on with them. And then I think that'll about do us for today, everybody.
Is dear, I've clicked away from the stream. Right, okay, you'll be fine. I don't know what it is. You've got something. You've got a workout video. I kind of click on it because it's like breaking the dashboard when I do it.
What's that? This week's one?
Yeah,
this week's it's a good old full body with a little bit of cardio in there, and I'm probably going to say a disclaimer, the one that wrecked me the most when I was filming it.
Full body and cardio, that's the one.
Yeah, I don't know, I was a little bit it was the first one that I did outside. I did outside.
The dogs like barking at you.
That's the one where the dog's barking at us through the fence. But it's a good one. Okay. You'll know about it. It'll bring the heart rate up and help you burn calories as much as it's designed to sort of hit muscle and work muscle groups and stuff like that. But as always, let us know how you're getting on. Reach out, give me a shout if you need a hand with anything, and failing that, we'll be back next Tuesday, same time. Keep the ball rolling. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for jumping in the chat and having a big crack. Have a good week and stay safe. I'll see you next week.
Ta-ra.
Take care.
Right, that is